You can start.
Okay. All right. Good evening, everyone. I want to welcome you to the February 10th, 2025 meeting of the Sacramento Regional Transit Board of Directors. Tabitha, would you please do the roll call and read the Metro Cable statement as well?
Yes. Director Burr,
Present.
Director Budge.
Here.
Director Dickinson is absent. Director Hume.
Here.
Director Kennedy. Director Maple.
Here.
Director Rorba.
Here.
Director Schaefer.
Here.
Director Cerna.
Here.
Director Singh Allen.
Here.
And Chair Jennings.
Here.
Okay, with that, we have a quorum of 10 votes, and this meeting of the Sacramento Regional Transit District is recorded with closed captioning. The recording will be cablecast on Metro Cable Channel 14, the local government affairs channel on the Comcast and DirecTV UVerse cable systems. The recording will also be video streamed at metro14live.saccounty.gov. Today's meeting replays Wednesday, February 12th at 2 p.m. and Saturday, February 15th at 2 p.m. on Metro Cable Channel 14. Once posted, the recording of this meeting can be viewed on demand at youtube.com/Metro Cable 14. Members of the audience wishing to address the board should fill out a speaker card located at the rear of the room and provide it to myself or Adam. Once the item has been called, additional speaker cards will not be accepted. Time allowed for public comment is at the chair's discretion, and the timer will chime when you have 20 seconds. And then again when your time is up. There was no written public comment received for today's meeting.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we will now move to our next agenda item, which is the Pledge of Allegiance. And I've asked Director from Rancho Cordova, Linda Budge, to lead us in the pledge.
One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I think the public can tell Scott Moak that his job is not in jeopardy. Okay, with that, I'd like to ask Director questions, comments at this time.
For consent calendar items 2.1 to 2.8.
Yes.
Hearing none, I will move approval of the consent calendar.
Wait a sec.
Yeah.
Wait a sec. Oh, Hi, Mr. Chairman. I have a question on 2.4, and I need to recuse myself on 2.7.
Okay. Anyone else?
Do you want me to move the balance of the calendar, or do you want to answer those questions?
Let's answer the question on 2.4.
Okay, 2.4, Resolution 2025-02011, authorizing the execution of the amendment for the Low Carbon Transit Operations Program for the Smart Ride Microtransit Project. And Laura Ham is here to answer any questions.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. I wondered whether there had been any kind of report done on the microtransit service.
We did provide a comprehensive report on Smart Ride to the board when we proposed restructuring the program to the new SAC-RT Flex service. So this action is repurposing funds that were originally awarded to Smart Ride under the LC-TOP program to other services that are already funded under LC-TOP.
I got that part.
Okay.
If you could provide me a copy of the report, I would appreciate that.
Absolutely.
And then I should say that I'm recusing myself on item 7 or 2.7, was it? Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Due to a campaign contribution made from AFSCME, Council 57 in September of 2024 in an amount exceeding $250.
Then I will move approval of the consent calendar with the exception of item 2.7.
It's been seconded. Any questions, comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain?
If Director Dickinson wants to jump up and leave, or however you want him to recuse himself.
I don't have to. I can just
Then I will
Yeah, I can just abstain.
move approval of 2.7.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain?
Abstain.
Let the record show we are unanimous with the exception of Member Dickinson, who has officially abstained. I will say that for the record. Okay, we will now address any items from the public at this time. Do you have any from the public?
Kenneth Arroyo. And then Jeffrey Tartagia.
I recently had a experience with the low rider train. I was at the Zinfandel light rail station when the train pulled in. He opened the doors automatically, and I was from here to the end of this table from the door. By the time I got to the door, he closed the doors and took off. I had to wait for the next train. When the next train came up, he opened the doors automatically. I went. This time I was closer to the door. I pushed the button on the door closed, and the ramp came out and started to open. Operator closed the doors and pulled the ramp in and took off. Left me stranded there waiting for another train. It opened the doors automatically, and they don't leave them open very long, and they take off again. They don't wait long enough for the disabled to get on board. Okay, I've said my piece. It's up to you now.
Okay, thank you. We'll have someone to meet with him so we can discuss this and look into this further. Okay. So someone from our staff, from RT, will be in touch with you, sir. And we're sorry for your experience.
Ken, you understood? Ken, you understood? Somebody will tell you, contact you. Somebody will contact you.
And we're sorry for your experience, sir.
And
Chef
Jeffrey.
Tardieu, an advocate. Yes, I brought Ken from the experience that I had this last week. Since we last board meeting, I've had some interesting experiences, whereas I think I told Liz over there before, interesting to see on Saturday. So I do appreciate the fact that we're going to have more officers on Saturday and Sunday monitoring the low floor vehicles. I would suggest that look at as the ride I took today after 3 o'clock. There was a TA there explaining why we were slowed down again. I was wondering if we were having another 7th Street car incident that was preventing a block. I've been in twice now where 7th Street has been out far enough that it's blocked a couple of trains going through there. I know I'll talk with Henry further about the other experiences going on with light rail. I do hope, Rick, that you do form soon that task force to look at all the problems. I'm hearing about the problems where the tooting of the horns, going on there, creating disturbances that riders and others don't like. Also having to make the adjustments to get into the vehicle. And blind person can't see whether it's crowded inside or not to know which door to go through on there. And the two of us were there, and it was very difficult for anybody to get in between us to go in the rest of the train. There are definite flaws for that less than, I think it's 28 people on each side that is allowed to sit. It needs to be examined further. And I hope, Rick, again, you get to see how the Globe light rail station of how accessible it turns out to be for both SETA and the dog and your other operations through there. I do want to firmly reiterate that I believe a 3D printer would be very helpful so you have physically what's going on there and what your plans are going on there. It didn't happen at the 7th Street location. 65th was put together and that wasn't what you built. And other locations have similar issues through there. And the 45 inches is a critical issue for dealing with the Zinfandel and 65th Street. And I guess I have a phone call, so my time is up.
So you called me out specifically, and I think that's because what most people may not know is that my office is right in front of Globe Light Rail Station. So I can assure you that I will find out more about what you're speaking of, and I will experience for myself so that I can substantiate the issue that you're speaking to. So thank you for bringing that to our attention, sir. Okay,
Be happy to join forces with you on that one, Mr. Chair.
there we go. Got the council member from the district. I love it. Okay, any other comments from the public?
That's it.
Okay. All right. All right, well, we thank all who came in and spoke on behalf of the public. We thank you for doing so. We encourage you to continue. We want to hear what you're seeing out there in the field. So please feel free to come and let others who may be experiencing the same issues come so that we can hear what they're saying, whether they do it in writing or whether they do it here at the microphone. We'd like to know what's going on out in our communities. So let's move to item 4.1, information presentation for SAC-RT Street Harassment and Transit Safety Survey. And I think Lisa Hines is presenting.
Yes, sir.
I
Here I
see
am.
you. There you go.
Chair Jennings, members of the board, I'm Lisa Hines, Vice President of Security, Safety, Customer Satisfaction, and Facilities for SAC-RT. I will be providing a summary of the recent street harassment survey conducted by SAC-RT. The need for the survey was established by Senate Bill 434, which required the top 10 transit operators in California to conduct surveys identifying and addressing issues related to street harassment on public transit. Street harassment is described as behavior or comments that can be sexual and may target your sex, gender, age, religion, nationality, race, ethnicity, or sexual orientation. Those who harass others in this way often target women, LGBTQ+, and gender nonconforming people, persons with disabilities, and people of color. Fear of experiencing street harassment can dramatically impact how some populations use or avoid using public transit. This survey was required to be completed by the end of 2024. The outreach process was conducted between October 7th and November 10th of 2024, and we surveyed approximately 1,060 participants. The writer questionnaire was available online for the duration of the outreach process, and we held 25 events to gather feedback. Participants included transit riders, members of the public, key stakeholders, and SAC-RT operators. The questionnaire was translated into Chinese, Russian, Spanish, and Vietnamese to capture non-English speaking individuals and ensure equal opportunities for participation. The questionnaire was also shared via SAC-RT's website, through press release and social media channels, and through distribution of flyers to stakeholders, organizations, and during outreach activities. The outreach team administered questionnaires to riders at stations and stops throughout our system, as well as operators at drop-in stations at SAC-RT. So let's move on to key findings. 61% of respondents indicated that they always or almost always felt safe while using SAC-RT services, with 30% of respondents indicating that they sometimes feel safe. Many participants noted that feeling unsafe was associated with the following: disruptive behavior from other passenger, which includes students, unhoused individuals, and people experiencing a mental health crisis. Traveling in certain areas, lack of fare enforcement, long wait times, and capacity challenges. Respondents cited the need for more security personnel at stations, buses, and on trains. There were also numerous requests for infrastructure investments, such as improved lighting, more cameras, and emergency call buttons. Female respondents were more likely to report feeling sometimes or almost never safe compared to male respondents. Operators reported experiencing harassment when operating light rail and buses. Individuals who identify as non-binary or transgender reported higher instances of experiencing specific behaviors directed at them. Now let's look at peer comparisons. We looked at 4 peer agencies: VTA, MTS, SFMTA, and BART, to assess our results against theirs. VTA is the agency like SAC-RT most in that we both have open light rail systems. Our scores were almost identical regarding passengers' view of the perception of safety. BART, of course, has a closed system, which allows them to secure who enters and exits their system, and as such, their score was slightly higher. SFMTA interviewed only 600 people and scored much lower. MTS in San Diego only conducted half the number of surveys at 500 and had a slightly higher score. On all 5 systems, most riders witnessed or experienced incidents of harassment. Overall, we scored similarly to our peer agencies. The cumulative results indicate that most public transit riders are experiencing and or witnessing street harassment throughout the state. Participants recommended increasing visible security presence, particularly during high traffic and late night hours to enhance safety. Addressing disruptive passengers' behavior through better enforcement of policies, and introducing transit ambassadors, security guards, and additional police officers during peak hours. Additional outreach to the schools to educate students on riding public transit. Most respondents indicated that incidents happen on board trains and buses. Nearly 60% of respondents experienced or saw incidents at stops and stations. However, nearly 63% did not report what they saw. Operators interviewed recommended improving their support system by increasing security presence as well as training. Additionally, operators suggested consistent implementation of policies for fair enforcement. So the next steps. We are always striving to update our safety and security at SAC-RT. In forecasting safety and security needs for our employees and riders, we have already made several safety and security improvements. We have added SAC PD officers riding the trains in the afternoons and evenings. We have 1 pair on the gold line and 1 pair on the blue line. This alone has already been highly effective, with officers being able to quickly apprehend suspects. We are working with the Sacramento Sheriff's Department, and we're going to be hiring fully uniformed security guards from the Sheriff's Department. They also will be riding trains. We have formed an operator assaults task force. We are providing operator de-escalation training. We have selected a bus barrier to install, and we have the funding to start making the purchases. We continue to support the Bipartisan Safety Committee as well as their recommendations. And we're also in the process of creating a campaign to add signage in buses and trains that crimes will not be tolerated against the public and our operators. Lastly, Assemblywoman Lori Wilson just introduced AB 394 to strengthen safety for transit operators and riders. AB 394 extends existing legal protections by strengthening penalties for assaults against transit employees, broadening enforcement against trespassing on transit systems, and empowering courts to issue prohibition orders restricting access to individuals convicted of violent offenses against transit workers. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much. Let's take public comment on this first.
There's no public comment.
Okay, then let's take director comments and questions.
Thank you,
Director
Mr. Chair.
Serrano.
Thank you. Thank you for the report, Lisa. I think that generally speaking, if we're going to institute new measures that are aimed at reducing harassment and certainly giving the traveling public a greater sense of security, we need to implement that, deploy it first before any signage goes up. And the reason I say that is because if we're going to put signage up that underscores the fact that it won't be tolerated, and we don't have other measures or enhanced measures, that is going to, I think, do nothing but confuse and agitate our ridership if they experience instances of harassment, because now we're actually putting it literally in their face, and we can expect people to show up here more often. So that would just be my friendly advice to our staff in terms of how we roll it out, is that we do signage very last.
Okay.
Thank you.
Others?
Yeah, I have, and I don't know if you can answer it now, and you don't have to answer it now. You talked about hiring more SAC sheriff's deputies. I'd like to know what the rollout is on that, and if it's going to apply all the way into Folsom. I get a lot of complaints about people getting on somewhere within Sacramento and then getting off in Folsom, and getting off at the last time before, because they don't return back to Sacramento. So, it's increasing our homeless unhoused population. So I would be curious about the rollout of that and what it entails. And does it entail checking tickets as well?
So I'll start with the SAC PD officers. As you all know, last January in 2024, they took back 8 officers. So we have 16 sworn personnel, including our lieutenant. So what we tried, the lieutenant came up with an idea that we tried to hire off-duty SAC PD officers, and it's uncanny, but they're signing up like crazy. And so we've been having them ride the trains, and it's been fabulous in the evenings. And like I said, we have a waiting list. So with the sheriff's department specifically, they're not in a position that can give us more deputies, but they started a program where they have armed security guards, and it's kind of like their entry level into becoming an actual sheriff deputy, but they're highly trained. They're the folks that you see at the dam. So we've worked with the captain from that area command as well as the lieutenant. And so we're going to get 6 of them. They're about ready to enter training. They're in the selection process right now. And we think that we'll have them out on the trains in March. The sheriff himself was involved in making this ultimate decision to let us have these security guards. But again, they wear a full sheriff uniform, and there's just one little delineation that says security guard. Most people are going to have no idea that they're not a full sworn officer. So with that comes a huge amount of responsibility. So they have they have their own security guard training program, and it's about 6 weeks, and then they'll come to us and get our training program too, like what we give our transit ambassadors and our security guards that we contract with. So I really think by the end of March, they'll be out on the trains, and they will go all the way to Folsom. SAC PD is going all the way to Folsom right now. And we've always offered for Chief Hillman to, we would help support and work with him, and I work with him very well, but that we would be happy to have Folsom officers on our trains too. So the more the merrier.
Director Maple.
Thank you, Chair, and I appreciate the presentation. Certainly one of the things that I've heard the most from either, constituent, not just complaints, just comments as well, from folks who ride the system is that there are concerns over safety at times and the perception of it. So glad to see that this survey was done and that we got so many respondents too. That was really noticeable to me. Even by some of the bigger systems, it looks like we did a great job at getting the word out. So thank you to your team. And for you for doing that. My question is, now that we're implementing changes as a part of that survey, it's great. Not just figuring out what the problems are, but implementing solutions. Do we have a plan for communicating these out? Obviously, to people who are currently using the system, but I also think this would be a great way to recruit new riders, right? Like people who maybe don't use it right now because they are like, I don't know. So, you can say, hey, actually, we've implemented these new programs. We think that this is going to make people feel safer. We're already seeing that. Come on down and ride.
I'm really glad you asked that question. So Deborah helped me with my presentation. So we absolutely have a plan, and she's on the Operator Assaults Task Force, and she's integrated into everything that we do with safety and security because we need to have that plan. We need to communicate to the riders that we have police officers and sheriff security guards and all the different things that we're doing, that we got $1 million in federal funding to upgrade our lights on the blue line to LED at the station platform. Some of the things they asked for. So definitely. Sure.
Hey, Director Brewer.
No, I want to thank you for the report. I thought it was very helpful. And I think it's really important that we increase safety on the rails for the riders. And also, as what Director Maple mentioned, it's important to attract new riders onto the line. So I think it's very important for the success of this program to show both safety and increased ridership together. Working in tandem will be a successful 1-2 punch. My question is, for those who will be doing the security on the lines, will there be any approach to help in terms of dealing with de-escalation of cases where you're going to have people who are mentally ill, who are doing the harassing or doing the violent approaches?
Definitely. Obviously, the police officers and the security guards will have de-escalation training. And as I mentioned, our operators are going to get de-escalation training, but you can't have enough resources on your trains. So one of the things I'm working on is, we all know we have a social worker, a master's in social work, Rose, and she just applied and got awarded 2 Sac State interns. And those folks will be on board with us come September, and we plan to deploy them directly on the trains, teaming them up with a transit ambassador lead to be on the spot and address those concerns. Right now, Rose is able to work with the folks, like we track the people that get the most amount of fare violations, and Rose takes that list and contacts them and tries, we actually have some people that we provide fare to if they follow the rules to help. It doesn't make sense to cite the same person 52 times in a month if they're following the rules and they just need a little help. So we try to balance, safety and security needs as well as compassion.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Director Singh Allen.
I want to thank Director Maple. I couldn't agree more. I think it's a tremendous opportunity to increase ridership because one of the things I do hear is it safe? And then to Director Cerna's point of making sure all our ducks are in a row first before we put the signage out there, because there will be that expectation of increased safety and security. My question is specific to Assembly Bill 394. In terms of process, will we be engaging in that in terms of advocacy to the representatives in the legislature that are in our region?
I believe so. And I work directly with Chris and Olga, and they provided me that information about this AB 394. So I definitely think we'll be lobbying to support that.
Okay, and I imagine our partners with labor as well.
Yes.
So just a little bit of information on that. The measure is sponsored by both CTA, which is our advocacy group,
Yep.
and the ATU.
Yep. Okay.
In
That's
partnership,
even
yeah.
better. Thank you.
Director Hume.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Lisa, for this report, and I agree with the comments and suggestions by my fellow directors. I think the key to robust ridership numbers oftentimes comes down to safetiness, cleanliness, and punctuality. And if you fail on any of those metrics, you're not going to have people that want to ride the system. So I think it's an important thing to focus in on. And I appreciate in the report that you put up relative to our peer agencies, calling attention to the fact that having open stations is somewhat of a barrier when you're trying to control behavior and control folks who are coming onto the system. And, it's obviously a cumbersome thing to have somebody checking for fares on the system. Have we ever considered having paid fare zones at the stations themselves so that before somebody boards the system, they've already established that they should be there, and or have something as they board that they can show proof of fare, that we can go back and review a video later to see, hey, look, the light didn't come on. You never even showed you had fare.
We've actually had paid fare zones at our light rail stations for years and years and years. And that's honestly how we were able to keep our systems safe and clean, because you don't get a lot of complaints about people sleeping there. We use the voice of God if someone's sleeping at the station because of the paid fare zones. And we really do a fairly decent job of eradicating people from staying long periods of time because of that. We have that tool.
All right, thank you.
So the voice of God, that's a tool I might need up here at the class.
Make sure it's
What do you
Morgan
think?
Freeman's voice.
Anyway, excellent presentation, excellent report. I just had a couple of quick questions relative to the languages that we reached out for. Do we feel that we got to everyone that wanted to present, or could there have been an additional language to use for interpretation purposes?
I'm not sure. Our planning team worked with our contractor, and I really don't have that information if there was a small segment of folks that we missed.
And then the other question in regard to that was the time period of October the 7th through November the 10th. Did you feel that was enough time to get the amount of comments? I think you got 1,060 comments. Was that like the expectation that you thought?
In reading our peer agencies, the ones I mentioned, I read their reports, and I feel like we did a very thorough job by going also to our stakeholders. There was one agency that went to every third person, and I felt like that was, just in reading that in my common sense, I felt like that was their desire to get through all 500 people today. And I feel like having that window of time was reasonable, and all the different ways and all the different languages. I do feel satisfied with the results, as well as the outreach that our planning team, and shout out to them for really helping and coordinating this.
Right. And I would just say that for those who may still want to fill out a survey, that should be available for them, even though it's after the 30-day period of time, just so we can hear their voice in
Well, there-
ways that they feel safe.
Definitely. And I think the best way to handle that would be just go right to our customer service department and share your experiences with safety and security. And the more information, the merrier. We can't fix what we don't know.
Exactly. And then just the last thing I'll say is just from a standpoint of a report to this board, since we are talking about public safety, I think we should have a regular time to get an update as to the progress that's being made to your action plan that you presented to us. And so I'll let the staff come together and figure out how often that should be. But I think we should have a regular update as to progress in this matter and what steps and support you need from us to help move this forward.
Sounds good. And then I want to end on, I definitely heard Director Cerna and Director Singh Allen that we haven't put up our signage yet, so I will make sure that the timing is the appropriate timing. I hear you.
Great.
you.
Good
Thank
job.
you.
Thank you. Any more questions, comments? Hearing none, seeing none, we will move to item 4.2, information on the light rail modernization update.
Okay. Good morning, Chair Jennings, members of the board, and the public. I'm Blanca Araujo, VP of Operations. Today, I will provide an update on the launch of the S700 low-floor vehicles in Folsom service. The introduction of the S700 low-floor trains is a major milestone for SAC-RT, marking a new era of modern, accessible, and efficient transit service. These trains bring significant improvements over our older, high-floor fleet with required steps or ramps for boarding. With the S700s, we now have full level boarding, making it easier for all Gold Line riders, including those with mobility devices, parents with strollers, and cyclists. The S700s provide a smoother and quieter ride with advanced suspension and braking systems, improving both comfort and safety for the passengers. Ahead of the launch, we conducted extensive outreach and gathered feedback from passengers, the Mobility Advisory Council, and other stakeholders to ensure a smooth transition. While we have been making adjustments based on community feedback, it's important to recognize that these new trains provide vastly improved experience compared to our older fleet. This evening, I will walk through the key areas of public feedback, the changes we've made, and how we continue to refine operations to better service our riders. The Siemens S700 low-floor trains began service at SAC-RT on September 1st, 2024. As of today, we have secured funding for a total of 59 low-floor trains. 22 have already been delivered, with 20 operating in revenue service on the Gold Line, and 2 still in various testing phases. An additional 23 trains are in different stages in the manufacturing process at the Siemens facility. For perspective, to fully transition to an entirely low-floor system operating on all 3 light rail lines, a total of 66 S700 light rail trains are needed. We will continue to receive delivery of S700 trains over the next few years at a rate of up to 2 per month. As you know, change often comes with some growing pains. And since we introduced the new trains approximately 4 months ago, we have received some feedback from riders and community members who live near the Gold Line. The main comments that we've heard are related to the new gong sound and public announcements addressing which type of train is entering the station, ramp usability, interior signage, and we've also heard observations about standing room only on the new trains due to increased ridership. While this highlights the growing demand of our service, we want to assure you that each S700 vehicle is designed to accommodate approximately 58 seated passengers, 184 passengers with space for up to 4 mobility devices. Based on our data, we have seen a maximum of 111 passengers on a single train, and we continue to monitor ridership patterns to assess system needs. We value this input as it helps us refine and improve the customer experience for all riders. After receiving feedback from riders and the community, we took immediate action to address concerns and improve the S700 trains. We focus on key areas such as sound adjustments, accessibility, signage, and passenger flow. The following slides highlight some of the major improvements we've made based on public input. We took community feedback seriously and immediately made key adjustments to the train sound levels. The gong volume was lower from 85 decibels to 75 decibels, making it quieter while still meeting safety standards. According to CPUC, the bell must produce at least 75 decibels at 100 feet to ensure audibility for public safety. We worked directly with the community residing near the 39th and 48th Street stations, recording the legacy gong sound and successfully implementing the new sound file on 2 S700 trains. To ensure compliance and rider satisfaction, we secure a sound engineer to validate and fine-tune the new sound levels. Exterior announcements were reduced to 80% volume, ensuring they remain effective without being disruptive. And we review feedback on station announcements and remove redundant messages to streamline information. Lastly, we're working with Siemens to relocate the ramp deployment speaker, making it easier for passengers outside the train to hear it. To improve comfort and accessibility, we install hand straps for standing passengers based on feedback from the Mobility Advisory Council and ADA requirements. We also updated decals and signage inside the train to better assist passengers with boarding, seating, and bicycle placement. Passengers found the tape switch referred to the activation strip difficult to use, so we tested alternative designs, including a larger handrail, but ultimately reverted back to the original design after receiving feedback from the MAC. The tape switch ramp request was not always holding requests, and we're working with Siemens, and this issue would be fully resolved through a software update. Clear signage is essential for accessibility and ensuring smooth passenger movement throughout our system. Based on feedback from the Mobility Advisory Council and ADA requirements, we redesigned several decals and station signage to enhance clarity. New signs help passengers quickly locate boarding areas, bicycle storage, and priority seating, making navigation easier for all riders. This is an ongoing process, and we continue to evaluate and adjust signage as needed to improve accessibility and ease of use. We received feedback about bicycles occupying ADA spaces, so we took steps to improve accessibility to ensure all passengers can ride comfortably. To help manage bicycle placement, we implemented a policy similar to San Diego MTS, restricting bikes in ADA areas during peak times to prioritize space for those who need it most. Inside the trains, we installed decals marking designated bicycle areas, helping clearly understand where bikes should be. Each low-floor train provides a space for up to 4 bikes, 2 in the front and 2 in the rear. Cyclists must secure their bikes and remain in control of them during their trip. And we're continuously monitoring passenger flow and bicycle usage to ensure a safe and comfortable boarding experience for all riders. As Henry shared at the last board meeting, service to all Folsom area stations resumed on January 5th with a new passing track at Glen Robert G. Holderness Station to enable more frequent service. We have been working closely with operators and scheduling teams, testing different ways to move trains sufficiently. A key factor is ensuring that 2 trains pass at Glen Station at a precise time so the next train can enter without delays. And we're gathering operational data to refine scheduling, looking at potential delays elsewhere in the system that might impact this timing. During the track construction, we identified that the crossing arms at Glen Station did not meet CPUC standards, and as a result, we are currently operating under a slow order in that area. A slow order means trains must reduce speed in a specific section of the track due to safety regulations, which impact travel times. Our operations team is actively managing these challenges, working to fine-tune train movements and adjusting strategies to optimize service. Although we've done a tremendous amount of outreach to the community stakeholders and public, as well as to the members of the Mobility Advisory Council related to the rollout of the new low-floor trains and increased service frequency to Folsom stations, we can always do more. And we will continue to provide regular updates in board meetings to keep everyone informed about our progress. Thank you, board, for your continued engagement and guidance, and SAC-RT is committed to ensuring the S700 low-floor trains exceed our community's expectations and needs. And this concludes my presentations, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Thank you. Director Cerna.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the presentation. And I think it was thorough, and I'm glad to know that we have an expectation that we're going to hear continued updates. I think we all expected that there might be some growing pains when we reintroduce low floor and all that comes with that, especially as it relates to what we've, heard several times now in the last few months about ramp deployment and the timing of doors staying open and that kind of thing. But because on one of your introductory slides, you inferred that it's going to continue to be some time before we have the entire rolling stock at low floor. That means we're going to continue to have mixed train sets, right? So my question is this, are we methodically looking at the original rolling stock and the condition of that rolling stock so that when we get up to, let's say, 59 cars and we still have 7 cars to go, that those last 7 cars are going to be the best of the old? So in other words, I mean, I think we all can appreciate that our original rolling stock comes in a wide variety of wear and tear. And I've seen some, just at a stoplight when a train's going by or on a radius turn or something, where you have a good look at it. And some of the cars are just, they look like, they came through a worn-torn territory. So it seems to me that we'd want to deliberately keep the kind of the most aesthetically pleasing and safe and functional parts of our older trains so that they can be the last to be mixed with the new fleet. Who wants to address that?
Let me address that.
Okay.
So we're very fortunately and successfully, secured funding so far up to $700 million for the light rail modernization. And for the rail system, every 15 years, you're supposed to have a middle life overhaul. So we should have done that about like 25 years ago. Unfortunately, we did not have the funding, local funding. Our local funding is only a fifth of 1 penny compared to other regions, whole penny for the public transit. So we did not have that money 20 years ago. Again, thanks to board guidance and help, and we were able to secure the money to completely modernize our system. We need 66 new vehicles to replace 97 older vehicles because each new vehicle has capacity up to 185 passengers. Right now, the maximum amount of the passenger right now we experienced for the new vehicle is 111. We have the funding for 59 vehicles, and we are very confident we will be able to get the funding for the next 7 vehicles. However, 66 vehicles include 6 or 7 vehicles for the backup or for the actual, capacity. So even with 59 vehicles, if we don't have any, mechanical issues, it shall be able to handle the entire, task of the system. So we're not going to have old one, the new one continuously for a long time, maybe just a couple, 3 years or something. We're going to have the entire new system.
Right. I appreciate the explanation about the funding and the need for the numbers and the capacity of each train car, but it's all not going to happen at once is my point. So I do think it probably is worth some minimal amount of time and effort to just take stock of which of the original train sets are, especially the aesthetics of it, are gonna be most acceptable, I guess, to the riding public. Because the more you have the new train sets deployed and you have a really terrible looking, couple of trains in there, it becomes that much more apparent, noticeable. So,
Yeah.
Was driving to, finish that within 2 or 3 years. Yeah.
all right.
But we are looking, as we're looking at which trains are gonna, go away because due to a age or their status of how they are, we are taking a look at that to make sure that those trains go away and we keep the most reliable trains in service until to mix in with the new fleet. So we will make sure we take note of that.
Let me get Director Hume and then I'll come to you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the report. Quick question. Obviously one of the big complaints that we've heard that I think we're most sensitive to has to do with the ramps and the doors. And so I'm glad to hear that we're trying to do what little tweaks we can. But when I heard the story earlier today, it struck me that perhaps, I believe your name was Ken, wasn't where the door was when the train pulled in, and that caused a delay in him getting to the door. So 2 questions. When you said that we are going to have signs locating boarding areas, is that literally like where the door will be opening when the train comes to a stop?
Yes, yes, that is. And what I'm thinking and what usually happens too is we look at each individual incident that comes along, and there's usually a mixture of whoever's inside trying to get in and what they're pressing and who takes priority, which one of what I mentioned will fix that, because if someone's inside, if they press the button, it's just going to take priority over anybody else coming in. So the ramp will deploy. But then we also have operators and things that might be pressing the button before or closing it or overriding the system. And those are special incidents here and there. And we look at them right away. And I look at bins because we then look at and go talk to the operators and make sure that they're receiving the training to be able to use the door correctly. Because that's what's taking place too. The operator can override. Once somebody presses the door, they can override it and they close. And that's why we get some complaints like, well, I had the door open and it closed and it left me. So we look back. If we get all his information, we'll take a look and find out exactly what took place with him and see if it sounds like it's an operator error, but the signage ultimately does help in and out to know where you're boarding and where you need to be at.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll take Director Schaefer and then Director Budge.
Thank you, Chair. So I just want to follow up on Director Cerna's comment. Is there a train, like we talk about a pavement condition index, we have a train condition index where even on the new trains, if we see that there are certain routes that will be harder on cars than others will be, I would imagine that all things are not created the same. So, but moving forward, we'd certainly like to maybe look at rotating the cars out to a certain, so that we're not beating one car to death before its lifetime is.
Yeah. Yeah. So
But is there any, what's the program?
Right now, the problem is that only our Gold Line tracks are low floor. So we're working on the Blue Line. So because that's not done, all the trains are going to be in the Gold Line right now. But we are starting the Blue Line, and depending where we get all that construction done, then we can take a look to see where we can place which trains. But right now, we're only able to place them in the Gold Line due to the low floor.
We're thinking about when.
Yes, later. Yes, we can definitely take a look and strategize of where we want to set the trains and rotate them, as you mentioned.
Director Budge.
Just a compliment, though. Actually, being up in Folsom last week for the SBTC JPA, it's so obvious that Folsom and Regional Transit work together to really improve Folsom Boulevard between, Iron Point and Old Town Folsom. And it's really very nice. So thank you.
Thank you.
Director Robar.
Yeah, thank you for that comment too, Director Budge, about Folsom. I'm sure that the emails I've gotten the last couple of weeks, and no one told me before I joined this board that I would be getting a lot more emails. No, I'm happy to handle it. And I appreciate actually all the staff's time and their reply, their quick, very informative replies back. I've been very impressed, but I'm sure it's filtered down to you as well. In fact, just at 3:58, I got another email again, that they had to get off at Sunrise and the train had to turn around. So, and I'm not just getting this from one person. So I don't know if you can address it now or address it where I can address it at my own city council. But the 10 gold line delays a day is what I've been hearing consistently for the last 2 weeks. And it appears that 50 minutes is not happening. And I think that seems to be that most everybody understands there's going to be issues, but they want to start hearing more of the solution. So if you could equip me or.
Yeah, so just briefly, we do have a lot more information to share if you'd like, but basically what we did a lot of testing prior to us running Folsom 15. We focused a lot on the tracks, the signals, and we stayed on that section. When we opened service, now it brings the whole entire system in, and it brought delays. Funny, somebody else mentioned 7th Street. We just had a meeting about if someone blocks the train, now it's causing this delay and it just throws the whole schedule off. So there's all these other things that we didn't take in consideration when we were testing, and we're finding them out right now. And we have teams literally every day trying to minimize. What happens is the system gets delayed, and because we only have a passing track, we can't let a train enter unless the other one's cleared out. And that's when you usually have those passengers exiting the train at Sunrise, because we're gonna basically put that train out of service, let the other train come, board and go, but that gives already time for the other two to clear that track from Folsom to Sunrise or Glen, which is our passing track. So we are attempting to figure out and work to come up with the schedule. Right now, we're looking at a set schedule, hopefully for April, but right now for this current bid, which runs from January to April, we're just trying to find the best solution and then give the public some type of schedules that they'll know. If we have to turn the train around, at least you'll know which train it is. We're also attempting to protect peak hours to ensure that those wanting to use the service every 15 minutes, get the 15 minutes going to work and coming home. So we're taking a look at all of that and working daily. But I think I would say maybe 1 to 2 more weeks, we'll have a little bit more of a concrete, hopeful schedule that we can share with the public. So at least they know what to expect when they're out there, and it's not random trains that are turning around, which I know that's what, and even now we communicate with our operators and let them know, if you know that we're going to turn the train around, start communicating with the passengers on board so they're not surprised, because I know that's what's getting a lot of passengers upset, not knowing, and then they have to get off and wait, or they just don't know what's going on. So we're trying to work on communication with the public as best as we can until we resolve the issue with the schedule.
Thank you.
But I can provide more if you like, breakdown if you need to.
Okay, well, I'll send the last couple emails. and-
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Hopefully that can explain what we're dealing with.
The good news
at
I heard in your
Folsom.
presentation was that you are seeing an increase in ridership.
Yes, we are. Yes, so thank you.
Okay, I think we're gonna give you a break and we're gonna
Thank
go
you.
to our public comment.
Okay, we have Dan Allison.
Hi, Dan Allison, representing Sacramento Transit Advocates and Riders. I have been riding light rail, Gold Line mostly, a lot more than I usually do, and so have some things to report. The turnbacks going to Folsom have already been talked about. They are a problem. I've been caught by it several times, resulting in my not getting where I needed to go on time. I noticed that low floor trains are being used on the Green Line, and I'm kind of like, why? It's a low ridership line. Those cars should be on the Gold Line. That's a high ridership line and not on the Green Line. I don't understand why they're being used there. Bicycles are definitely an issue. I have been on trains with 11 bicycles on a car, and it's a mess. Nobody can get around. I realize that solving that problem is difficult, but I have 2 things to suggest. As an experiment, take out the single seats that are adjacent to the doors and see if that helps. It may or may not. Only do it with 1 car, but as an experiment, see what happens. Secondly is, I think that the ambassadors should be communicating with the bicyclists about where's the best place for your bicycle? What can you expect here? When do you need to give up the disabled seats to somebody, and how do you know, that sort of thing? Just trying to educate bicyclists so that their behavior helps things rather than hurts things. I'm a bicyclist. I often have my bicycle on. The internal digital signage on the new cars is sometimes wrong or blank. I've noticed several stations on the Gold Line at times, the sign doesn't show anything at all for the next stop. And then sometimes it shows the wrong station, which is worse. And the ramp deployment has been talked about. I have an idea as an experiment again. Make the door that's the forward door on the first car where the platform is marked with the detectable strips, only for ramp deployment, not for any other use, so that a regular rider doesn't try to open that door and delay the ramp deployment. Again, may not be practical, but as an experiment, it's worth investigating. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
And Jeffrey Tartagia.
Yes, no, I'm going to take a little bit the opposite strand and say the nice thing about the old fleet is you can put more than 4 wheelchairs in and they can move around. Ken and I today came with 2 and literally somebody trying to get in between us. They had to turn sideways to try and squeeze through, and they asked, apologizing, to trying to get in between. That is unfortunately the feature of the low floor trains. They're not wide enough, and when you get locked in. Now, for the people that are blind, you have no way of knowing inside the train how to deploy the ramp because there's no sound inside. When you're outside, there's a visible and you can hear it going off. Inside, you cannot. Also inside, when you do, it says in there, press and pull. It should say tap, because if you at least keep your hand on the button, the ramp doesn't deploy. It's a software glitch going in through there. But it's a nice flowing train, but it is very limited. And you're going to have to deal with that now for the next 20, 30 years, unless you come up with a new design in the future that will allow you greater accessibility. I have had twice now where, because of all the carts around there, I couldn't move until I got off at the end of the train. Sac Valley Station, I've had trains that have been more 5, 10 minutes, whatever, late going on through there. Part of it is the 7th Street where cars do get out of there and block the light rail. But that's another matter for the city to address and deal with in the future. Just letting you know, I really think it would be nice to have a time morning, whether it's at the half hour or the other hour, because there's people that like to ride the big platforms.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Thank you much. Any more public comment?
That's it.
Okay. This is an information item? Okay. Any other comments from my colleagues? Okay. So with that, we will move to item 4.3, the chair's appointment to the SAC-RT Retirement Board. And my understanding is that Shelley's going to present this item? No?
I can present this item.
Okay, all right.
So Patrick Kennedy has expressed that he wishes to resign from the retirement boards and have a replacement appointed. At this time, SAC-RT board chair would need to appoint 1 management member to serve on each retirement board to assume Director Kennedy's term, which expires December 31st, 2025. And the SAC-RT board chair may appoint the same member to each retirement board.
So the real task is to have one person. Okay. Did Chair Kennedy give a reason as to why he's retiring from me? No.
I have no further information.
Just sharing the love, Chair.
So we would be looking for a volunteer first, right? Someone who really would like to getting additional experience and learn how to work in this area of expertise.
And just so you know, the meetings are on Wednesdays from 1 to 3.
Okay.
Quarterly. So right now they're scheduled for February, March, April. There's special meetings, so it's a combination of months. I can get the schedule for you.
So we,
Our policy requires 24 hours training every 2 years. Yeah.
so it's either someone volunteers or the chair has to appoint.
Well, it is a chair appointment, but you would appoint who volunteers.
Right. So really what the chair is looking for a volunteer, correct?
Yes.
So I'm looking to my left. There's no eye contact. I'll look to my right. I got some eye contact at least, a little bit. Is there anyone that would like to take on this assignment?
Chair Jennings, if I could clarify, for this appointment, it does not have to be a board member. It can also be a staff member if you so wish.
Ooh. So I have to go to my colleagues first to make sure that nobody here wants to do that before I would then offer it to staff opportunity, right? So I'm not seeing any hands go up, so would I work with the GM to decide who from staff would be the best person for the position?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Okay.
that.
Yeah, well, we can ask Sherry to be the, full, the actual board member because she is the alternate right now. Then we try to assign our CFO to be the alternate.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is that our plan going forward?
Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
We cannot have a CFO, I'm sorry. They do the presentation. Oh. Deborah volunteers. Outlet.
I'm gonna get you from behind that pole. Okay. Do we need to vote on that?
Yes.
We just appoint. So I will make that appointment.
So for
Anybody-
Shelley Valentine to become the member and Deborah Salinas, the alternate.
Yes. Perfect. All right. Item 4.3 is done. There was no public comment on that, correct?
Correct.
And no directors have any comments on it, since nobody made eye contact with me. Great. Thank you very much to staff who volunteered, and we thank you. Okay, with that, we'll move to item 5.1, the general manager's report.
Good evening, Chair Jennings, members of the board, and the public. First, I would like to thank our public for the constructive criticism about how to improve our service, especially Dan's suggestion to ask transit ambassadors to tell which train having more bike capacity. Great suggestion. Thank you. And certainly thank board members, your guidance on how to implement safety measures, such as taking advantage of safety enhancements with a ridership increase, the promotion for the ridership, as well as the timing of signages and safety measures, because we don't want to put a sign there and the safety measure, it's not there. So by the way, our crime rate actually continues to remain very low compared to our industry standards or averages. And our fare evasion rate in the last 6 months is 0.4%, which is extremely low too. And 10 years ago, our fare evasion rate was double digit. So we will continue to update board and the public with our progress, on the trends, the new system, and other topics. This next slide, please. So you might have noticed in the written GM report that we started recognizing employee milestones. We used to have that COVID, during the COVID time, we stopped that. We started this, again. It's one of the great places to work in the Sacramento region. SAC-CARTI has always placed a high priority in investing and celebrating our workforce. And then moving forward into the new year, we plan to start recognize milestone anniversaries, safety awards, and other employee achievements during board meetings. And we will bring staff to the board meetings when time is appropriate for staff. And I would like to just thank Chair Jennings and Vice Chair Shin Allen for encouraging us to do this more at the public forums. And this month, we recognize active team members reaching major anniversary milestones, starting with last month, and more to come at the future board meetings. And I also, think this is very important to recognize our dedicated riders and fans. I just want to share this picture of a thank you card we received from Ferris. This a lovely boy. He got a SAC-CARTI light rail sticker from our booth at a community event last year, proudly displaying it on his water bottle. Unfortunately, he recently misplaced his water bottle and was very sad over the lost sticker. And when we found out, we immediately sent him a new stickers and some extra swag. And as you can see, he's happy and drew us a lovely thank you card. He drew it by himself. Okay. Then next, I want to remind everyone that SAC-CARTI will be holding 2 in-person hiring events this month as we recruit for all open positions. They are our first in-person hiring events of 2025. We have found in-person hiring events to be tremendously successful, as many applicants need assistance navigating the application form, because the government form, lots of requirements. It's very difficult to navigate, and takes several hours for some people just to fill that form. And in the middle of time, they give up. They don't want to spend that much of time to fill in the form. Not only is SAC-CARTI the WTS 2024 Employer of the Year, SAC-CARTI offers extremely generous and competitive benefits package for medical, dental, paid sick leave, retirement, and tuition reimbursement. We are also offering $2,000 signing bonuses for bus drivers for public. If you hear this message, please apply. Hopefully, we will get a great turnout at the 2 events, with the first one being held tomorrow. So this is a little bit information share with from the new administration. At the end of January, the Federal Office of Management and Budget issued a memo phrasing all federal programs while they reviewed the administration's priorities. The opposition in DC was fierce, and the OMB withdrew the memo before it was set to take effect. But while the phrase was lifted, the underlying examination of a program is ongoing. While SAC-CARTI has low negative funding impacts due to this pause, staff continues to monitor the situation and plan for this potential in the future. And short-term pause on federal funding, 30 to 60 days would not normally affect SAC-CARTI's ability to operate or fulfill our financial obligations, because we do have a strong fiscal, direction provided by our board, and we have grown our operating reserves to over $40 million from $0 10 years ago. Now we have $40 million, and have not used our line of credit in many years. We used to have like a $15 to $20 million line for credit where we were using every month when Director Hume and Director Solo was the chair. That's a long time ago. And in the meantime, US DOT issued guidance on funding requirements for how to apply for the funding in the future for all programs and activities. They require rigorous economic analysis and a positive cost benefit assessment. So in the future, if we're going to apply for funding or the existing funding we already got approved in the past, they will very likely ask us to do this type of in-depth cost benefit analysis. And also they prefer to give more money to the regions with higher baby birth rate. So more babies, they're going to give you more money, which maybe is a good idea, and encourage more. Talking about that, and our lobbyist in the DC is helping us try to schedule a couple potential meetings with one with the White House Intergovernment Relation Office, another one for the FTA and US DOT meeting in the cap to cap, during the cap to cap frame. Once we secured those, we will immediately share with our board members. If you have time to join both or either one, we will immediately share with you. And by the way, we have a tradition, SACRT sponsor the trip, the cap to cap, and a couple other major industry conferences and events. We will share those events for this new year to you, send that to you, Tabitha will send that to all of you, soon. Okay, next one. Okay, the education and public outreach. So what we have seen complete reversal in our financial situation from decades ago, and we have been very successfully in securing unprecedented federal and state grant funding. We know we need to identify more local funding to support service. And our partner agency, STA, is exploring the possibility for a 2026 sales tax measure, exploring just. So try to help them. And we are also try to do our part to do more, public education and outreach. And we hired a public affairs firm, Cherry Springs from Meraki Public Affairs. Cherry will assist SACRT in this process of community and stakeholder engagement to get the feedback around the transportation priorities and initiatives in the county, in the Sac County and the cities within SACRT's service area. Once this, we get those feedback, we will provide, those feedback to the board, and also, this may help STA in determining, what is the support or tolerance level for future ballot measure, led by STA. Cherry, she recently led Placer County's outreach on the sales tax measure B, the half-cent sales tax, the measure received 64% of the vote, which is very good, you know. Even though 66.7% is a passing, you know, percentage, and she will be, you know, contact with our board members to talk to you, you know, get you feedback and guidance and what do you feel about. And the staff will, you know, work with her to meet with you down the road. So I just want to make sure, you know, I want to share this before, you know, reach out to you. To conclude my remarks, last week, on Tuesday, February 4th, Sacramento honored the legacy of Rosa Parks on Transit Equity Day. Transit Equity Day is a holiday in honor of the civil rights leader Rosa Parks and is celebrated on her birthday. We commemorate the brave act of defiance that sparked a movement for civil rights and transit equity. To honor Rosa Parks and her contributions, we reserved a seat at the front of every Sacramento bus with a special reserved for Rosa Parks sign. And if we don't have enough seats, and people can sit there in honor of her too. It's not just empty there all the time. And we provided free rides on our fixed routes bus system to celebrate the important moment in the civil rights movement. Almost the entire industry, you know, did this, the free ride. Several of us were able to join the event organizers at the Capitol on the raining day alongside Sacramento's 1956 bus, Old Blue. There's lots of people, actually, lots of organizations borrowed our Old Blue bus for some historical events throughout of this region. That being said, that complete my report. Mr. Chair, back to you.
Thank you. Thank you. I give the public as well as my directors an opportunity to ask any questions or make comments on your report. I'll go to the directors first. Okay, Director Hume.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to point out that the train in Ferris's drawing was better looking than some of the cars that Director Cerna referenced earlier.
Oh, man.
Okay, Director Dickinson.
Those cars have been in service since 1987, though, and I'm not sure Ferris has been around quite that long. So, Henry, I wanted to just ask, given your comments about the pause and then the rescission of funding indicated by OMB, if what APTA is doing regarding protecting transit funding.
APTA has been very active in terms of promoting and protecting the funding, and they have been talking to the new potential FTA administrator, and to welcome him and talk to him. Already start talking to him, and also try to schedule a meeting with the U.S. DOT new secretary. And this is in a very unique time. Let me just say this. Yesterday, Elon Musk, in the X post something saying the public transit should be the local deals, the federal should not, fund. But we remain, optimistic about the federal funding for the transit because this affects hundreds of million working class citizens. That's just as simple as that. Working class, citizens, and so it would be very difficult to to change this trajectory. However, some major capital projects may be affected, and as you say, the White House already issued investigation on high-speed rail. So that's just something, yeah, the temperature right now.
Other directors? Okay. Any public comment on this matter?
Yep, we have Jeffrey Tartagia and Helen O'Connell.
Ellen, you want to go now since you have the mic in your hand? Okay.
Oh, well, yes, wanting to work with Henry, wanting to try a property transit tech for the purpose of dealing with the factor of we need income that provides for operations. Other agencies are on a financial cliff. Apparently, this is Los Angeles, this is the Bay Area through here. We have done well, but we need to do better and we need to come up with the ability of local dollars. And since 2016, when the rest of the state had a 74% likely with public transportation, we still were only able to get 66. And from 66 to 64 is what a sales tax seems to generate. So want to get a hold of the property owners and explain to them, like a library tax, there is a primary benefit. So this is why I say to all of you is why we need to get the out there to make the things work. Tell your property owners that this is a direct benefit to you as we try to work out other things to make public transportation work for all of us. Now, with a few more seconds, I will want to say that appreciate the last board meeting where the construction guy let me know that, hey, dealing with your 4 contracts that you guys approved for Dos Rios, and Henry, you haven't mentioned the land, was it groundbreaking? I think February 19th or whatever through there. I hope you guys know about it. Please, it's important to attend that effort to see what is going to happen and go on. Also in light of now planning a soccer match. And I see my time is about out. So thank you very much, people. It's important that try to be helpful to you.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, board. I tried to behave myself and not comment on every single thing. I am grateful that Henry Lee has secured a lot of infrastructure financing. And I am glad that we are financially solvent right now. I did have a question on how many months can we sustain our services without all the funds that our president has decided to freeze? That's question number 1. Question number 2 is, if you're capable of getting so much infrastructure funding and new programs, all this other stuff, what is hindering you from getting in the contracts operational funds? Because if you don't have any operational funds that is available to pay the people that drive the buses, that fix the buses, that do the reservations for RTGO and all those other things, they're just going to sit in the yard because nobody's getting paid a reasonable inclusive pay scale. And I don't understand either why there is such a diverse lack of payment. There's such a difference between something that provides services using the same vehicles, and they have such a different pay scale. Thank you.
For your comments. Thank you. Someone will get back to you and talk to you about that whole funding system. Okay, no more public comment. I just have one more comment I want to make as it relates to Henry's report. You mentioned 2 hiring sessions, fairs. One is happening tomorrow, the 11th of February, and then another one is happening on February the 26th. But you failed to mention the one that took place on February the 6th at Jefferson Elementary School, where Chris Flores was there to talk to all the kids about a future in working at Regional Transit.
Yes.
And talked to over 200 kids who came and had the opportunity to hear him talk about the great jobs that take place here. And he just did a wonderful job. And so I just wanted to give him a round of applause, if you would.
Thank you for, mentioning that. And also, I have time limit too.
Okay, we will move to item 6.1 and 6.2. These are reports, ideas, and questions from directors and communication. Director Hume, do you have a report on item 6.1?
Only to say that after 4 years of serving in the capacity and the limit of 2 terms, I am no longer chair of the JPA. I got demoted down to vice chair so that there would still be continuity of leadership in the Sacramento region.
Okay, but no other report other than that?
No, sir.
So not really demoted, just second in charge?
That's right.
Okay, good. And Director Budge, do you have a report on item 6.2, the Sacramento-Placerville Transportation Corridor Joint Powers Authority?
It's written up in your staff report.
Any comments on it or anything you want to say?
No, actually, the only, Patrick was not, Pat was not there, and the director from Folsom is not here tonight.
Okay, I'll ask for any public comment on these items.
There's no public comment.
I'll ask for director comments or questions on either one of those 2. Seeing none, hearing none, we will move to the last item of the day. Tabitha, would you read our closed session item?
Yes, closed session, item 10.1, conference with legal counsel pursuant to 54956.9D, anticipated litigation, 1 or more cases. And this closed session item will take place in this room. So if we can have everyone not involved in the closed session item to please exit the room at the end of the meeting.
And just in closing, there will not be a report out. So, thank you very much for coming tonight. Meeting is hereby adjourned. I know.
Always.
I need to get with them ahead of time on this stuff here. Some of this stuff is just a touch confusing.